Nigeria's COVID-19 cases exceed 34,000 as NCDC confirms 643 new infections. House of Representatives to investigate mass resignation of 365 soldiers. In international news, many U.S. states roll back reopening after spikes in COVID-19 cases. And later, sport, Special Eagles to represent Africa in post-Qatar.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Real Estate Governor Nyesom Wike earlier today rescued former acting managing director Niger Delta Development Commission Joy Nunez from a siege laid to her house in Port Harcourt by policemen. In a video that surfaced online, the convoy of the governor was seen taking the former managing director out of her compound in Port Harcourt. Nunez was scheduled to appear before a Senate panel probing the finances of the NNDC. In a television interview on Sunday, the former managing director accused the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs Gatswill Akpabio of sexual harassment, corruption, budget padding, fraud, abuse of office, and other allegations. She also said the so-called forensic audit going on in NDDC was a ruse. But the minister, in a statement by his spokesman, Aniete Ekong, described the allegations as, quote, false, malicious, and libelous. Nigeria's COVID-19 cases have now exceeded 34,000 as the Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirmed 643 new infections on Wednesday. Lagos still remains the epicenter of the virus with 230 new infections. Oyo State, in a distant second, recorded 69 cases. The Federal Capital Territory recorded 51 new infections. 16 other states also recorded cases in double digits. And the CDC says 6 persons died from COVID-19 complications in the last 24 hours, bringing the total number of fatalities to 760. Nearly 14,000 patients have been discharged so far. Nigeria remains the most impacted West African nation. It has tested almost 200,000 of its 200 million population. Meanwhile, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and the Nigeria Governors Forum have endorsed the COVID-19 Incidence and Resource Tracker, a dashboard and predictive analytic platform to help in containing the spread of COVID-19. The new systems is expected to provide a robust, up-to-date database of federal and subnational resource and availability requirements for the COVID-19 response. It is based on World Health Organization recommended resource specifications on packages for COVID-19. Suspended and detained chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magu, has been released on Wednesday evening. Magu was arrested 10 days ago. He has appeared before an investigative presidential panel that is looking into allegations of corruption and insubordination leveled against him by Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. Magu's release came hours after 12 EFCC directors were suspended in connection with a probe, many of them involved in investigating the Attorney General of the Federation. Magu has been accused of mishandling recovered loot and selling seized assets to his associate. He was alleged to have purchased a property in Dubai using a pastor as a front. He was also alleged to have laundered more than $500 billion through a borrowed change in Kaduna. Magu has denied these allegations. The Federal High Court in Lagos has sentenced to 7 years imprisonment former director of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Captain Ezekiel Bala Agaba, for laundering $1.5 billion. Agaba was in charge of maritime safety and shipping. He was arraigned in December 2015 alongside former NIMASA Director General Patrick Apollo Bukeme and two others for using two firms to siphon about $2.5 billion meant for the implementation of International Ship and Port Security Code at NIMASA. Justice Ibrahim Buba ruled that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission proved the charges against Agaba beyond reasonable doubts. A court of appeal has discharged Akpobolokeme, while the EFCC withdrew charges against 2 other defendants, leaving only Agaba. Former commander of Nigeria's Army's Operation Lafia Dole, Olusegun Adeniyi, will face a court-martial after a video appeared in March of the commander complaining about poor equipment after an attack by Boko Haram terrorists left dozens of soldiers dead. In the video, the Major General also complained about an intelligence failure resulting in heavy loss of soldiers. Adeniyi was relieved of his position as commander of Operation Lafia Dole, the counter-terrorism command in the northeast. He has been moved to Nigeria Army Resource Center as a research fellow. The video sparked outrage and renewed criticisms that the government of President Muhammadu Buhari and the military commanders were giving the public false impressions on war efforts and successes. The House of Representatives says it is ready to investigate the resignation of more than 300 Nigerian army soldiers. 380 soldiers resigned from the army for loss of interest. Chief Whip of the House, Mohammed Monguno, pointed out that the Nigerian Army that was founded in 1960 is the largest component of the Nigerian armed forces. Monguno says the Nigerian Army staff strength of about 200,000 soldiers is saddled with the responsibility of taking charge of land warfare operations as well as protecting and defending the territorial integrity of the nation. Monguno further said Nigerian soldiers have disobeyed orders from superior officers to protest against poor welfare arrangements and alleged embezzlement of allowances by their superiors. President Muhammadu Buhari has sent his condolences to the family and friends of Nigeria's first flying female officer, Tolulope Arotile, who died in a road accident at the Nigerian Air Force Base in Kaduna on Tuesday. Special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, says the president lamented the loss of the promising officer whose impact was great on the nation, especially in the area of peace and security. Additional also says the president has commiserated with the airmen and airwomen of the Nigerian Air Force. The president is also said to have sympathized with the government and people of Kogi State on the loss.
Coming up, African stories. Zimbabwe promotes conservation farming to increase food production. And later, international news. Many U.S. states roll back reopening after spikes in COVID-19 cases.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, Africa News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Libya has restarted its oil facilities after shutting down for 6 months. The country has Africa's biggest proven crude reserves and has been torn by fierce conflicts between 2 rival governments. It is not clear whether forces loyal to General Khalifa Haftar would leave the oil fields. Haftar's forces control the east and parts of the south of the country where the oil fields are located.
Oil exports are the main source of state revenue for Libya. That's why authorities were keen to resume oil production. An ongoing military conflict between the GNA chief Faiz Sarraj, based in the capital Tripoli, and General Khalifa Haftar in the east has damaged the infrastructure and oil facilities.
2 years ago, the oil production capacity was about 1.22 million barrels per day, but due to the war and the dire state of the facilities, the real production is less than 600,000 barrels. There's a huge drop in production and won't improve for the next 2 years.
Libya has the largest oil reserves in Africa. That's why the North African country has been suffering from numerous foreign intervention from regional and international powers.
Oil production has been practically zero for 6 months since January, and this caused losses of $6.5 billion. Foreign intervention from several powers throughout the last 8 years to control the oil in Libya has prevented the country from achieving peace.
For now, however, the chief of the national oil company says part of the income from oil exports will be spent on 2 tracks. First, to rebuild the infrastructure to be able to increase production, and second, will focus on improving security arrangements to protect all oil facilities.
The government of Zimbabwe has begun promoting and encouraging conservation farming in the country to reduce or to increase food production. Conservation farming is a no-till system that increases yields while protecting fields from erosion. Faraya Uwakutuya reports.
Despite last season's drought, Judith Nyamandu's granary has enough maize to see her through to the next harvest. She's consistently achieved high yields since she took up conservation farming 9 years ago.
Before, I used to plant 10 kilograms of seed, but would harvest 1.5 tons. Since I started practicing conservation farming, I reaped up to 3 tons on the same piece of land.
3 tons. Using dried maize stalks to mulch her field helps retain moisture, reduce runoff, and provides cover from direct sunlight. A smaller piece of land encourages precision farming. Improved output has helped her transition from subsistence to commercial agriculture.
I was encouraged to expand into livestock to integrate my farming, so I grind my excess grain into stock feed. I get higher profits from selling chickens than I would from maize on its own.
Even if others can't make that jump, they can at least be self-sufficient. Pfumvudza means a new season, an apt name for a method that's rebooting traditional farming techniques and changing the fortunes of those who've adopted it. A Pfumvudza plot is 39 meters long and 16 meters wide, a piece of land that can fit 52 rows of maize, each row producing 17 kilograms of grain, enough to feed an average family of between 5 and 6 for an entire week. And so a whole year's supply of food can be grown on just 1/16 of a hectare. That's nearly double the national average output of 450 kilograms per hectare, which means this is also a way for Zimbabwe to restore its food basket status.
The Permanent Secretary for Agriculture has been speaking about 1.8 million households. That's every single rural farming household in the country. If we can get 1.8 million farming households in this country to just do their Pfumvudza plots this year, Zimbabwe will export grain.
Pfumvudza farming will also provide solutions to changing climatic conditions that have resulted in the delayed onset of rain and prolonged mid-season dry spells that have wrecked harvests in recent years.
Tanzania recycling plants that processed and exported waste paper to China and India has switched to making anti-coronavirus face shields in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. The face shields are said to be popular among hospitals and health centers in the country. Isaac Lukando has the details.
These scrap cardboard boxes are 36-year-old Alan Kimambo's bread and butter. He founded Zaidi Recyclers in 2016. The firm has been collecting waste cardboard boxes for a paper manufacturer. His enterprising grandmother nurtured his entrepreneurial skills.
My grandmother sold plantain, maize, and I would help her. I would also help her sell mangoes. I would sell fish and fried plantain at bars. So I think it's something I learnt at home.
The COVID-19 outbreak delayed payments from his main client, threatening the livelihood of his 37 employees. The businessman had to think outside the box. He considered creating low-cost face shields from recycled plastic bottles. After posting a video of them online, orders came pouring in.
We sought to see how we could provide a solution, but also expand our revenue stream. So we didn't lay off anyone in the company. We didn't reduce anyone's salary, and everyone was paid on time.
Encouraged by his success, Alan thought of other money-making ideas. He added face masks for people with hearing impairments, as well as other forms of eye protection to his range of products. The International Labour Organization estimates that globally, more than 1 in 6 young people have stopped working since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. The exact number of youthful Tanzanians whose livelihoods have been affected by the coronavirus is unknown. However, one thing is clear, that innovative ideas may not only save their jobs, but also create new ones. To date, Alan has sold more than 10,000 units of face shields using what he describes as simple skills. Employee Ruth Michael is now eager to create more.
Mimi nimesoma credit.
I studied credit management, but I had no thoughts of creating things that would help others. I simply thought that I would get employment after finishing school. But after I came here, I've learned and I'm eager to do many things to help others through various things that are thrown after use.
Alan's paper recycling business has now stabilized following the reopening of business in Tanzania. As his trucks load more cargo, he hopes his efforts to innovate will pave the way for a more secure future for himself and his employees.
When we return, international news. Many U.S. states roll back reopening after spikes in COVID-19 cases. And later, sport. Special Eagles to represent Africa in Polska Cup.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Many states in the U.S. that have reopened their economies are now having to walk back their decision after COVID-19 cases skyrocketed in their states. California Governor Gavin Newsom has asked 30 counties and all of Southern California to shut down again. Mark New has the details.
Just as many businesses began to crank up again, California Governor Gavin Newsom rolled back the reopening, ordering a statewide shutdown of indoor operations.
In California, all indoor operations must cease at restaurants, family entertainment centers, wineries and tasting rooms, zoos, museums, and card rooms and movie theaters. For bars, they must cease both indoor and outdoor operations.
That's not all. For around 30 counties on California's monitoring list, fitness centers, worship services, personal care services, malls, offices, and hair salons all must close too. That affects about 80% of the state's population, including businesses in the earliest California county to be hit, Santa Clara.
Even though, we don't make money, we lost a lot of money business, but whatever we have to do, we want everybody, to be safe.
Sunny Salon opened up Monday and is seeing as many hair and nail customers as possible. At midnight, it must close.
I have a lot of clientele and they've been waiting for all that months. You think how many people have appointment? And I'm like, oh my God, all night last night I cannot sleep. I just thinking how I serve my customer, right? How I do that, how I tell them I cannot take them.
Sunny Salon was too booked to see these potential customers.
So you're not going to be open tomorrow?
We can't.
It's off and on. You know, we could open and up the next hour they're closed.
What do you think of those rules, though?
We gotta abide what the governor says.
Having been closed for months, Joe Sparacino opened up this gym on Monday, sanitized and moved equipment further apart, and even moved some outside. The gym has to close by Wednesday.
I know some of my trainers were on unemployment and they just withdrew this weekend so that they could start over here. And then I'm not sure how that works. I think they have to sign back up again today. So yeah, so we're starting the cycle all over again.
Sparacino believes as gyms close, the community may suffer. By not keeping immune systems strong with exercise, some people could be more susceptible to getting sick.
U.S. President Donald Trump signing into law of the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act has generated a fierce reaction from China. Beijing has warned of firm countermeasures. The bill backs Hong Kong's anti-government protesters. China also accused the U.S. of sinister intentions and warned of retaliation should Washington act arbitrarily.
The Chinese government is criticizing Washington and promising countermeasures after Washington's decision to sanction China over policies in Hong Kong. And President Donald Trump signed the Hong Kong Autonomy Act into law Tuesday and an order to end special treatment in trade for the city. And Beijing says it may impose sanctions on U.S. personnel and entities. The Chinese Foreign Ministry says the U.S. move has seriously violated international law as well as the basic norms of international relations. And the U.S. says its move are in response to a recent national security law for Hong Kong, which Washington says undermines civil freedoms. Beijing says the legislation will bring more stability to the city. Beijing also urges Washington to correct its mistakes and stop interfering in China's internal affairs.
Researchers at the University of Barcelona, one of Spain's most prestigious universities, said in late June they had detected the presence of the novel coronavirus in wastewater samples collected in March last year. They said this suggests the infection was present before the world knew about any case of COVID-19. Now the country is ramping up wastewater testing to contain the spread of the pandemic. Raul Pathak has the story.
Battle against coronavirus is going underground. Here in Valencia, the study of wastewater samples has resulted in the development of an early detection system that is helping control COVID-19 outbreaks. Valencia has registered one of the lowest COVID-19 infection rates of Spain's major cities, and this system of testing is intended to make sure that it continues.
We're currently under the streets of Valencia, and identifying COVID-19 in wastewater samples such as these means that the health authorities can isolate and control any future outbreaks far, far quicker. It's a much faster method of detecting COVID-19 than simply waiting for someone to develop symptoms, which can take up to 20 days after the person has first been infected.
The process takes 8 to 10 hours. The sample is collected in the city and it is transported to a lab, where it takes this 8 to 10 hours to be analyzed, and then the numbers are shared with the client, which can be a health authority or a company, in real time.
Wastewater samples are taken from 24 locations around the city. The aim is to monitor any infections, which could then allow the authorities to take preemptive measures in the event of a new outbreak. The system was developed in conjunction with the University of Valencia and specialists at the city's major water company, and now they're looking beyond.
We have proposed it to several parts. We had some interviews with New York City, and we are also going to do it inside Spain in other important towns. We are already collaborating with Sevilla, maybe in the future with Madrid, so we have good collaborations so far.
With COVID-19 infections now increasing across the developing world, wastewater testing like this could provide a better economic alternative to widespread screening.
Up next, sport. Special Eagles to represent Africa in Polska Cup. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sport. Nigeria's amputee football team, the Special Eagles, will represent Africa in September at the 9th International Amputee Football Tournament in Poland. The invitation was extended to the team after their performance at the last Africa Cup of Nations for amputee football, where they came second. The Special Eagles will feature in the event alongside England, USA, Haiti and Mexico. Chairman of the Nigerian Amputee Football Federation, Suleiman Isha, says the tournament is an avenue for scouts across Europe to search for players who will be signed to play professional amputee football. The Premier League and EFL Championship Football League have confirmed their summer transfer window will take place between July and October. The window will open a day after the 2019-2020 Premier League season ends. A number of European leagues have already confirmed their summer window will close on October the 5th. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.